We the People Oklahoma continued rallying tonight for justice following the death of Terrence Crutcher.
Earlier, News on 6 reporter Tony Russell talked with organizers who say they're pleased that charges are filed against Officer Shelby.
Its planned rally in front of City Hall changed its theme following formal charges being brought against Tulsa police officer Betty Shelby.
Today, we stand here victorious, day 6. We have a charge.
The group We the People Oklahoma drew a large crowd, calling for action and policy changes from city leaders.
It feels good that we have people being peaceful, and it feels good that we're not trying to cause any chaos, cause a riot. We're trying to be peaceful as possible. But at the same time, it takes time to heal.
Not all agree with Officer Shelby's manslaughter first-degree charge.
To me, honestly, it's a letdown to see it, but if some justice happens, I'll take it.
Now the legal process is moving forward.
I still think she deserves a trial. This is a country where you deserve to have a trial, whether or not you did good or bad. That's why we live here.
Organizers feel a lot has been accomplished this week.
Please understand that it takes a collective, as all of us are. So I believe that tonight, Tulsa will sit down and rest and say that our government got it right.
In Tulsa, Tony Russell, News on 6.
And first here at 10 o'clock, a deadly officer-involved shooting in Bartlesville.
News on 6 sent out this breaking news alert just after 7 o'clock tonight. News on 6 reporter Annie Chang live in Bartlesville with the new information for us here. Annie?
That's right, Scott. And Terry, Bartlesville police say the man who was shot actually punched one of the responding officers. That's when the officer fired his gun. Police officers say they were called to the home near Edgewood Avenue and Phillips Boulevard earlier this afternoon around 2:30, but by the time they arrived, the man was already gone. They say the man came back hours later around 5, and neighbors called police. Officers say as soon as they arrived, the woman tried to run out of the house to safety, but the man ran after her, tackling her to the ground. At that point, officers deployed a taser, which they say had no effect. That's when they say the man punched one of the officers in the mouth, who then took out his gun and shot the man at close range. Neighbors say they heard 4 or 5 gunshots. The man died at the hospital.
It's just a domestic violence call. It's something routine that, officers deal with day in and day out. And, it can go pretty violent pretty quick. And, it's one of the more dangerous calls that officers have to deal with.
I'm still shaking, actually, literally, I'm still shaking. But my mind is out there right now. I watch things on YouTube and I've seen videos. I've never witnessed anybody ever being shot at or shot in general. And this is probably one of the most intense things I think I've ever gone through.
Bartlesville police say the assaulted officer was treated and released from the hospital. Neighbors say they saw the woman before she was taken to the hospital. She looked badly beaten and her face was bleeding. OSBI will handle the investigation from here. Reporting live from Bartlesville, I'm Annie Chang, News on 6.
New developments as North Dakota's Standing Rock Sioux Tribe protests pipeline construction on what they consider to be sacred land. This week, a woman attached herself to a piece of pipeline equipment. It happened just a mile away from where a man tied himself to an excavator last week. New tonight, supporters of the protests gathered at a downtown Tulsa Guthrie Green. And that's where News on 6 reporter Tony Russell is tonight with more. Tony?
The gathering may have wrapped up, but just moments ago, a truck, a van packed full of supplies that were gathered at the rally tonight just departed, I'm told, for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe rally there in North Dakota. People here tonight just wanted their voices to be heard. Oklahomans are rallying for a tribe 16 hours away in North Dakota. People from tribes all across the state gathered to protest the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline.
To see all these different people gathering to support the Sioux Tribe is just awe-inspiring. It kind of gives you a little lump in your throats.
The Standing Rock Sioux says the route goes right through tribal burial grounds. Pipeline protesters are worried about the environmental impact of a pipeline crossing the Missouri River. For those who can't make it to North Dakota, Guthrie Green is where their voices are heard.
I felt like it's my opportunity to be able to stand up for what is right, and it's something I've always wanted to do for my people.
Zachary John says it's the younger generations of natives that need to get involved with their tribes.
We're the future. our grandparents and our parents have fought for our rights. And it's time that we start fighting for our own rights.
Casey Camp Hornick of the Ponca Nation is one of the many Oklahomans who made the drive to North Dakota to see the standoff themselves.
We stand with Standing Rock.
We are with you. We are all fighting for you.
Been in Louisiana for the last 2 months. What are we looking for?
And tomorrow, a federal judge is expected to hear an injunction filed by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe about the continued use and construction of the pipeline. Reporting live in Tulsa, Tony Russell, News on.
In Bartlesville tonight, about 60 people gathered at the police department to pray for Oklahoma officers and those across the country. The event was led by Bartlesville Baptist Temple and Calvary Chapel.
Hundreds marched tonight in downtown Tulsa for peace and understanding. Organizers of the event say the turnout was larger than they expected. News on 6 reporter Annie Chang continues our team coverage, and Annie is live in downtown with the details for us here at 10. Annie?
That's right, Scott. People of all walks of life united here in downtown Tulsa tonight in support of the victims, their families, and also police officers.
Words to each other.
Not a protest, not a march. This is a call.
It is a call to prayer and a call to love.
Jen Thomas organized the call in response to the 2 deadly officer-involved shootings this week. She says the country needs prayer more than ever after the violence in Dallas. And tonight, many prayers came from Tulsa.
We come together as a community, making a standard of peace.
Yes, Lord.
We thank you, Father, that you will heal our land, bring healing to the families, bring healing to the community.
People of all backgrounds, ethnicities, ages walked from Guthrie Green to John Hope Reconciliation Park, chanting and singing.
Let it shine, let it shine.
Members of the community talked about race and its important role in Tulsa's history, lessons still relevant today.
The history of Tulsa that has been hidden so long, now it is out where we can teach the next generation what happened in the past so it won't happen in the future.
The call resonated with Chris Ahn, a teacher who just moved to Tulsa earlier this summer. He says this made him feel a part of something bigger, a part of something good.
This is something that's really uplifting to see. And I hope to see more of this.
Several Tulsa police officers parked along the street and stood on rooftops to keep attendees safe. But here, the only call was for prayer and peace. And the organizer, Jen Thomas, says she hopes to hold several open dialogue meetings with both local and state lawmakers in the coming weeks. Reporting live from downtown Tulsa tonight, I'm Annie Chang, News on 6.
Good evening. Our top story at 10 o'clock. Overlooked evidence delays the trial of a quadruple murder suspect. Tulsa County DA Steve Kunzweiler told the judge a Tulsa police detective overlooked the evidence in the Fairmont Terrace murders from 2013.
Prosecutors believe James Poor and his brother Cedric killed 4 young women. News on 6 reporter Allison Harris was in the courtroom today and talked to both the DA and the defense attorney. Allison?
Well, Lori and Terry, the evidence that's missing fits in 4 3-ring binders and on 16 CDs. The judge called them substantial in volume and significant in character. The defense says a detective withheld evidence, but the DA's office says it was simply overlooked. Brothers James and Cedric Poor, charged for the January 2013 murders of 4 women, walked into court for a hearing ahead of James's jury trial, which was set for Monday. But Friday, Judge Kurt Glasgow and defense attorney Wes Johnson learned there's evidence missing.
8:33 this morning, when I was in the middle of taking a shower, Steve called me up. So he said, hey, we've got a problem. And he's got a problem.
Yeah, this is a big problem.
Huge problem. It's like the asteroid that struck the Earth 65 million years ago and killed all the dinosaurs.
Tulsa Police Sergeant Dave Walker says his detective, Kevin Hill, overlooked the evidence.
A lot of that information, and rightfully so, should have been turned over to the defense. We're not going to argue that. Why it didn't, we can argue that.
Walker says the binders and CDs have been on a shelf in the property room and pertain only to the early suspects in the case. You guys just didn't find it important to turn them over?
Well, I don't want to say we didn't find it important. Obviously, we're seeing the importance now.
But James and Cedric's defense attorneys argued that jail call records, part of the missing evidence, could point to other suspects. Johnson filed a motion to strike the jury trial, almost 3 years in the making, and the judge agreed, reluctantly, saying, "Let me tell you something, folks, this is disrupting the lives of so many people." District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler called the victims' loved ones.
They want it to be done right. The worst thing that can happen is you try a case and then 5 years later you're calling somebody up and say, hey, we have a problem.
Cedric's trial has been set for February, and the judge says he might try the two brothers together to be efficient. The DA says he will look into police practices for handing over evidence. Allison Harris, News.
And our other top story tonight, the water's starting to recede all over green country, but at least a dozen families in Mayes County are still without homes after heavy flooding from the Pensacola Dam forced them out.
Police and the Grand River Dam Authority evacuated the entire neighborhood earlier this week. News on 6 reporter Annie Chang shares some of their stories.
Now I want to show you what some of these homeowners are dealing with. You can see some of their homes are still partly submerged. Now tonight, for the first time since they were evacuated on Monday, several of these homeowners are coming back to see their houses. One neighbor tells me it's like going to a funeral. What does it feel like to lose everything all at once? Ask the Millers, who had to evacuate their home by boat.
And you have nothing. I mean, what I have, this is what I've got on. That's it. That's what I carried out of there in my purse.
Butch Miller is a Baptist preacher, so he's used to being in the water, but not for this reason. He put on the waders that he usually wears for baptisms and walked through the chest-deep floodwater to get inside his home. After seeing the devastation, he regrets doing it.
I wanted to see what was going on and kind of wished I hadn't.
Butch took these pictures of inside their home. He says everything on the first floor is waterlogged, even the items inside their garage.
We had a library in there, and everything's gone. It's just mud and water. And
Cheryl's treasured grand piano, too, is filled with water, and photographs of their family are a total loss.
We've been married 48 years. And it's all back there. You know, all the possessions you own are in the house. Pictures, you know, everything is gone.
The only solace, the Millers say, is that they're not alone. The entire neighborhood is in the same situation, and they have each other.
This whole neighborhood, everyone is without a place to go. And we all just looked at each other like, well, where are you going? Well, you don't plan ahead for stuff like that, you know.
Most of the homeowners we talked to tonight are staying with family or friends or at church camps. FEMA is expected to arrive tomorrow. In Mayes County, I'm Annie Chang, News on 6.
Thousands of acres burned through Osage and Washington counties as crews from nearly a dozen agencies did their best to get it under control.
Well, this actually looks like a volcano. This doesn't even look like a hill in Oklahoma.
High winds and dry grass kindled the fire that threatened a casino, home, cars, and wildlife. Brooke Bowman says the scene is a scary but spectacular one.
It's devastating, but it's beautifully destructive is what it is. It kind of catches you in awe, but the fact that it can just destroy everything in its path it just kind of blows your mind.
Since the majority of the land burned is open pasture, Osage County Emergency Manager says the wind in some areas is moving the flames as fast as 300 to 400 feet a minute.
So it's scooting. I can't even keep up with it on this rough country.
Up and down Highway 123 and the surrounding areas, the grass is scorched and the fire rages on. Bowman says an aunt and uncle who live nearby will have to evacuate soon if the fire gets much closer.
It's going as far west as it can be, and then it's jumped Highway 123, and it's going as far east as you can see.
Emergency managers say if the fire keeps spreading like this, closer to 12,000 acres will be burned before the night is over.
A new museum's taking shape in the middle of a Tulsa neighborhood. It's a house where scenes from the movie The Outsiders were shot. News on 6 reporter Emery Bryan has the update. It's new tonight.
It happens all the time.
Was that your niece?
Yes. Someone from the neighborhood shows up with an artifact from the filming of The Outsider.
But you've seen it with your own eyes, how many people stop by on the regular to share their stories, their experience, where they were when it was filmed.
Danny Boy O'Connor, a lifelong fan of The Outsiders, still can't believe he now owns the Curtis brothers' house, where some of the scenes from the movie were shot.
Pretty cool stuff, right? It still takes a second to sink in, because, you know, I'm like, I've been showing so many people now, like, where things were and how this went that I forget, like, oh my God, like this is where like he ate chocolate cake and drank a beer for breakfast.
O'Connor's extreme renovation of the house continues.
So this is our like deep CT scan. This is our, this is our x-ray, so we know what's really going on.
And that determined the foundation needed repairs. O'Connor says his workers have found some interesting items in the walls and under the house, perhaps dating back to when the movie was shot. But his most common find is the amount of interest in the movie and the planned museum.
I've been amazed by the support that I've got from the local community.
Emery Bryan, News on 6.
We have links online with new pictures of old scenes from the movie put together by organizers of the museum and how you can help out with their efforts.
The day Pioneer women fans have been waiting for is almost here. Ree Drummond's Mercantile opens tomorrow morning. She made a name for herself 11 years ago when she started the Pioneer Woman blog, which turned into a cookbook, then a TV show, a cookware line at Walmart, and now her new shop. Ree tells News on 6 anchor Tess Monty she couldn't imagine opening the Merc anywhere but Pawhuska.
The Mercantile and Pioneer woman Ree Drummond are the talk of Pawhuska.
We really just want to make the Merc the most special place it can be and do our best with it.
And Ree's done so much over the past few days to make that happen. She's literally worked herself sick.
We've had many late nights. 5 nights ago, this store was just a bunch of stacks of random products and we had no idea what we were going to do with it. So this is how I lost my voice.
But scratchy voice and all, Ree and her team got it done.
That's what cough drops are for.
With no detail left unturned.
It's very special to me.
The deli and bakery serve up some of the Pioneer Woman's specialties. And on the other side of the newly renovated historic building, a shopper's dream.
Everything in the Mercantile has been handpicked by the Pioneer Woman, and she says of all of the stuff in here, her favorite thing is this little guy.
We have Abraham Lincoln and Andy Warhol, finger puppets. I had a lot of fun with this.
Ree seems to have fun in everything she does, which is why fans from all over the country want to visit.
We love it.
This couple drove in from Alaska because of the Pioneer Woman. Proof the Merc is already putting Pawhuska on the map.
It's a true blessing for our community.
The city manager says it's hard to predict the true economic impact, but says it'll likely be great enough to turn back the clock on the sleepy little town.
What's getting ready to happen is going to bring us back to probably about where we were in the 20s when it was really roaring.
But for now, the Pioneer Woman just wants to show off Pawhuska, to let us all know the town and its people are some of the best we'll ever find.
I may be the reason people come to visit, but I won't be the only thing that they want to stay and see.
In Pawhuska, Tess Monty, News on 6.
All the way from Alaska. How amazing. The deli is set to open tomorrow morning at 6. The other shop on the other side will open just a few hours later.
That plane was on display for the public today. The hangar doors at Tulsa International Airport opened today for some lucky folks to see the solar-powered plane traveling around the world. News on 6 reporter Tony Russell talked with people excited to see that plane.
Aviation fans, engineering fans, getting a chance to get up close and personal with Solar Impulse 2. It's here inside the hangar at the Tulsa International Airport at American Airlines Maintenance Base. Here's the thing, they opened it up for the public to see it today and it's sold out. Solar Impulse 2 is making its way across the world, and it just so happened weather diverted its zero fuel flight from Kansas City to Tulsa. The extra time on the ground is giving people a chance to see the experimental aircraft.
There he is. Does that look comfortable?
Andrea Job heard the news of the open house and jumped online to get tickets for her daughter to see the plane.
Do you think it's bigger or smaller than what you thought it would be? Bigger. Yeah, I would agree.
Everyone got a chance to ask the crew questions and learn more about solar-powered flight and Solar Impulse's mission.
No, it's pretty short because it's very light. It's only a 2.3-ton airplane.
Just getting a chance to see this aircraft is a free lesson on aerospace and engineering.
I love how many solar panels are on the top. It looks cool. It's awesome. It's huge.
And the flight crew telling me the first window to get out of here is on Thursday. And don't forget, they're going to have another open house on Monday. Still requires some tickets. Reporting in Tulsa, Tony Russell, News on 6.
Japanese entertainment and history is happening right now in downtown Tulsa. News on 6 reporter Tess Monty explains what Tokyo in Tulsa is and why it's important to thousands.
Tokyo in Tulsa, it's all about the anime.
Anime is Japanese animation.
And that's the simple explanation, Uriah Davis says.
Now it's more of like a cultural lifestyle. You know, you do what you love, and it's kind of a thing. This is all kind of a labor of love for that.
Tokyo in Tulsa is sort of like Comic-Con. A big part is dressing as your favorite character without worrying what anyone else thinks.
No one judges.
Many con goers spend countless hours creating their own unique and intricate costumes.
This is a fishing pole, this is a real knife handle, and this is a meat baster.
In Tokyo in Tulsa's first year, about 1,000 people attended. This is the 10th year, and it's expected to be the biggest one yet, with well over 10,000 people. There are clothing, art, and even wig vendors, plus bands, guest speakers, and anime voice actors, like Rachel Messer, who happened to grow up in Catoosa. She says Tokyo in Tulsa piqued her interest in the industry.
Tokyo in Tulsa was the first convention I ever came to as an attendee.
Now she's well known in the gaming and anime world. For instance, she plays several characters in the show Midnight Mares.
I get to be the bully now kind of character. And then there's the mother character, and she's very proper and formal. She's also kind of like a goddess mare. So she's very formal in how she speaks.
In Tulsa, Tess Monty, News on 6.